Hi, welcome to Canto Roboflow training movie. In this movie, I'm going to show you how easy it is to export or to perform an action and determine yourself where the file needs to be stored. You can pick up a hard-coded path, or you can pick up the file path of the existing folder or existing file and then create or store the action created file next to the original. Imagine that you have a catalog with images and you want to create a GIF, GIF alternative that is stored in the same folder. Well, this is how you do it. First of all, how are you going to know that a file has been cataloged? Because there's a new record. You could create a status field and look at that status field and then use that field to export. But there's an easier way. You can simply go into your catalog and create a trigger. So in the trigger here, I can add and say I want to watch records events. And what record events can I watch? Well, item added. So if item is added, then I'm going to perform the Roboflow action, and my target folder where I want to store these trigger files is on my C drive. Oh, I clicked on the network. Here's my C drive in a temp folder, and here is my new trigger. Be always very aware with trigger folders that the trigger folder needs to be visible from the Roboflow server and accessible, and from the Cumulus server. It's the Cumulus server that creates that trigger file. It's the Roboflow server that reads it, picks it up, and executes it. So that's how that goes. And once this is installed, we're all set on this side, and we can now create the workflow. So I'm going to say create new workflow. I'm going to call it a hot collection. That's the type of workflow we're going to use. We're going to query into the database to find the records we want to process. And in this particular case, we're going to use the trigger file to find the record to process. Hot collection means hot collection export GIF or asset action file to asset folder. We're saying that this is process a list of records, and here we are in the workflow. Interval, I'm going to run it for now on demand for our test, but in reality you would run this, for instance, every minute or something like that, or every 5 minutes or every day. Good. The catalog we're going to do this in is the watch folder catalog. If you want to run this on multiple catalogs, then you have to type them in and separate them by semicolons. The query. In this case, normally we would not need a query because we're going to pick up the files from the C drive. We're going to put them from that specific trigger folder that we had here created, and this is where these files are going to be. So that is how you can get to this. But just as an example, you can on top of that add another filter. Imagine that you only want to do this for the JPEGs. Then I'm going to say JPEG record name contains is a question mark dot JPEG. Now any other file format will be ignored. So if you don't know the syntax of this query, just go to the Cumulus client advanced search window and you can create this kind of query yourself in the advanced search part, advanced query part of the find window. Good. So we have a catalog. It is automatically going to find our records. Now we need a target folder? Well, the target folder is going to be the path of the asset. So we don't need to specify it here. We are going to perform an action, and I try to keep all my parameters that are specific to this workflow outside the action script. So I'm going to create it here. I'm going to say action, and there is a selector, select action dialog. You can find them here in this list, and that way it knows that this is actually a dialog window, and I'm going to pick up an action that I call create GIF, like that. So now I have here a nice parameter for me, and then I can start with the script. Well, the script will be executed for every record. So I have a record here, and what do I actually need? I need the file of the record, because I need the folder of the file of the record. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say store file of record. This cannot work on a vaulted catalog, because of course you are not going to put your GIF file in the vault folder of your file, and so it needs to be a catalog with files really on a file server in a normal network environment. Then the next thing I'm going to do is now I need the folder of this, so I'm going to say give me a part of this file. What part do I want? Well, I want the folder part. I want, and give me store the folder path. It's a piece of text, it's just a folder path is a piece of text. And then I need to get that folder object. So copying a file to a certain location requires an object. So store path as folder, here we go. And that's, which is the folder path? Well, you can pick up results from another instruction, as you know, by using the tag instruction. So here we is folder path. And which kind of action do I want to perform here? Well, I want to create if it doesn't exist. It's of course stupid, because it does exist. The file was there, but just in case. New. Now the final instruction is that I'm going to copy the record. I'm going to perform the action. So Cumulus record, and I'm going to convert, and convert is actually an instruction that is in the Cumulus file section. So here I'm going to convert the action, which means that I'm going to use the hot record, and then I'm going to use an action. And remember that I created this variable up front, so I could select it here, but then it would be inside your script. If you ever want to change it, it's a little bit more difficult to find it or to remember where it is, so it's better to do it this way. This creates the GIF. You don't have to change the file name. The asset action will automatically create the GIF name, and then standard. Then you can just say, I don't want the asset handling set in here. I'm gonna pick up the variable name. Where is this variable name coming from? Well, this variable name is actually coming from the global parameters. Here you have your asset handling set, and here you see that's the same variable name, and let's say that we're using standard here. If you don't want to use the global one, but want to use an individual one for this particular file script, then you could just add it here, and then it would use a specific one for this record. So you see, we pick up the file from the record, we store the folder path, we make sure that the folder exists as an object for Cumulus, not just a path. And then we convert asset from record. So we're creating that export. So very simple, very straightforward. And the advantage is that you have complete control of where your file goes. So if I now need to Another thing that might be useful, sorry for confusing you, is you could pick up the file name of the file path and you can construct the target file and delete it to make sure that it doesn't exist. Imagine that this is happening twice or something. Otherwise, asset action would add a 1 instead of having the original one. So that too is, of course, a possibility if you want it a little bit more secure. So let's go here, and so let's catalog the file. So I'm catalog, oh sorry, I haven't, my asset actions a little bit messed up. Activate, Windows, activate, okay, and then now I'm gonna catalog a file, and let's say that I select this file for cataloging. There you go. Now what this automatically did in the back is that there's now an XML trigger file, and what does this contain? You don't have to know this, but it contains actually the information about who performed this action, what name of the record, what instruction it was, it's a new record, and what catalog. So now you know, okay, here's a new one coming in, and Roboflow knows this as well. When it's running on a time schedule, it will just say every minute, every 5 minutes, whatever you want. There's something to process. So I'm doing this now manually, just for the sake of this training movie. And if we have a look, we say show log. So it says, okay, I found an XML trigger file. I found one, and I find the record according to that trigger file, and it's called this. And then it goes on. And if you have a look, now in the catalog, nothing changed, of course, but if we do a show location, you will see that we have, next to this JPEG, we also have a GIF version of it. And so it can do that for any type of file. An additional interesting thing is, of course, now it only did that when the file was new, the record was new, but what if you update afterwards? Well, that too is not a problem. All you need to do is add a new trigger here, a new trigger that watches automatically the records again, and it needs to watch a field value. And what value field value do you want to watch? Well, actually the asset modification date. If the asset modification date changes, it means that the file was changed. So that's a good moment to do this again. So you see, this way, whenever this changes, you do exactly the same thing, and you put the target in the same folder. And that way you can automatically be sure that this workflow will not only keep your files up to date, export your GIF file whenever there's a new file, but also whenever the original was updated. So very, very straightforward, easy to use, and because you're having an automated process like Roboflow do it, you are sure that it's also not forgotten, and that you're not depending on a user to take care of this. So this was a very simple workflow, basic hot collection. It uses triggers, and it exports, performs an action, and puts that exported GIF file in the same folder of the original. Thank you for joining this training movie. I hope this was helpful, and see you on the next one.